I don't trust a whole lot of people. So you could definitely say I have trust issues, but it goes a little bit beyond that to the idea that I don't have a lot of faith in people doing the right thing. I see quite a lot of this just working in the entertainment business, that filmmakers, photographers, actors, what are extremely passionate and they give a lot to the craft, they don't get the recognition they deserve because something else, maybe slightly more palatable or slightly less disruptive, picks up the accolades. I've seen people who really do have it all, but because society don't want to have somebody who can do that, that person hasn't succeeded. I've seen amazing businesses fail because people have boycotted them for silly reasons. I've seen people make generalizations on whole cultures and unfolding events what have derailed politics to the point of changing form for the worst. So I generally don't have too much faith in people's decisions, and that also comes from my own life. I've been betrayed by my family, by my friends, by my town. And as I got older, I started to. When I was younger, I definitely considered myself the problem or the villain. And as I got older and I started to pull apart perhaps the reasons why these people betrayed me, all I was able to find was just more cynicism. And the idea that people are only out for their own interests and they don't even try and disguise it. And perhaps the most worrying thing is they don't even know what they're doing when they stab you in the back. I've also myself, I have to admit, I've also broken people's trusts. I had a friend who was a wonderful friend. Perhaps looking back, we would have never gone the distance because we were both such different people, and we both moved areas, which isn't an excuse for a friendship breaking up. But I think in the UK it's a lot harder to have friends because you stick to your groups, and if the groups splinter, it's very hard for you to find another group or find some more people. But what happened was, in college I was portrayed as sort of we were both in film school, and I was sort of portrayed as the elitist film snob, which wasn't true. I was often going every weekend going to watch blockbusters, but I played into that character. I had no problem playing into that character, so it turned into a joke between me and this guy about my wine drinking habits. Well, actually weren't true. I collected a few wines when I was younger, but I didn't have this big collection what we joked I had. And that I was just watching French films and trying to sweet talk women. So it turned into this sort of a joke. And on the other hand, we joked that he was sort of the mainstream who only liked Fast and Furious and going to the gym and getting gains. And so in the class, we turned into this really sort of fun, banterous thing where we were both playing these characters, what weren't exactly true, and we'd play jokes on each other, but he was always a lot of more of a better student than me. I've never really been a good student, and my jokes did cross the line to disrupting the lesson. And at the time, I never meant to do that, but I definitely enjoyed getting over. I enjoyed people's reactions to the jokes, and there was a part of me what enjoyed almost having this younger brother what I could, because I was a year older than him as well, where he would sort of look up to me, but I would sort of play this high and mighty role. So in a way I became the role. And people in the class started to take the roles we had portrayed a little too seriously, and I would say people did start to see him as the character what we were trying to make him portray. So people did see him as this sort of mainstream, maybe quite dense person, but behind the scenes we both hung out and we had a lot of fun together, and I did go to the gym with him, and he was just a wonderful, genuinely funny person, one of those people who are funny without trying, and just a real nice guy. And sadly I just kept pushing and pushing, and it wasn't even necessarily I didn't necessarily break his trust just by pushing with jokes. I later did apologize to him and for all the jokes I took too far, but he accepted. But it was the exception of he was being polite and pretending that it didn't affect him. But I knew my jokes definitely sometimes isolated him. But it wasn't necessarily even that what broke our friendship up, or where I think I betrayed his trust. It was, I was going down an avenue. I was going down quite a dark path in my early 20s, and I took this person with me. And this person also had quite a rough upbringing, and he needed friends with stability. He needed friends what would show him the right path. And I was going down a path which I knew was wrong, and I took this person with me. And to this day, is actually one of the biggest regrets I ever have of damaging that friendship beyond repair, because when I look back, he would have definitely been a friend what I would have wanted to stay around forever. And I have been in that situation by other people, because it was almost like a tier system at college. I was hanging out with, I'm going to do the quotations, some cool kids, and the cool kids I was hanging out with were hanging out with even cooler kids, quotations again, and that and they would then attack me for not being on their level. So it was this downward thing, and as I'm saying, it started off as completely friendly, and he would also dish it out as much as I was dishing it out. We were both at each other, but then there came a time when we both needed to start studying harder, and because I got such a reaction of people for pulling pranks on him, once I left he went to the toilet, and I took his phone and I put it in the teacher's coat, and I rang in the coat, and the teacher had good humour about it, but I could see he was quite embarrassed. And that was the sort of the turning point where the jokes were perhaps being a little bit unreasonable, but I just kept pushing till the jokes became a little extreme. And I think he thought it was friendship, and it was, but then when he got a bit older and matured, he realized that why would he be around somebody who's just like we would be having meals out, and everybody would be looking at me to try and get some entertainment out of us, to the point where, so when we were at film school, people made films with us in it. We were the most demanded, like our partnership, our dynamic was the most demanded I don't know, protagonists. Like, people wanted to cast us in their short films because they wanted to get the funniness of our relationship and put it into their film. But when we were out for dinner and everybody's looking at me to try and draw something out, and then I would then pull some of the strings. So back then he had these extreme unrealistic views on women, which I knew he was only, they weren't true. He was also playing a part. And then I would bring up those, and then the whole thing would turn to debate and it's comedy. So I myself broke somebody's trust and pushed something too far, and my own parents have broken my trust on countless times. Of more recently, they gave my name. So there was some heavy drama, let's just say, in my family, and the police had to be involved. And my own parents said that, so it was actually about going to the woods and making these videos. My own parents said that I had the suspicious activity, that I woke up early and I went to the woods. And because I knew of some people in my area what dealt in drugs and how can we say, were I don't want to. They were in that market. I went to school with some of them, and I wasn't on friendly terms with them. I didn't exactly. I knew of them, but my parents invented this whole story where I was going to the woods and doing hard drugs, or I was perhaps dealing in hard drugs, and because I knew of these people, so I had to get interviewed by the police about if I had why I was going to the woods, and I felt I felt like a massive betrayal to me, and that's not only the first time. I was part of a class where there were known psychopaths in the class, and my parents didn't pull me out, and my parents left me with these kids, and then these kids did some crazy things when I was younger. Like, there was a kid who was, we're approaching serial killer territory, and everybody in the school knew, and my parents left me to play with him even though they knew. So I guess my trust was shattered from a young age. I had my trust shattered in my first relationship. I had one of my best friends in later life stabbed me in the back in a way which was, I never saw coming. We were in a way frenemies, if you like. We didn't necessarily get on, and our relationship was very problematic, and you could even say I didn't even like the guy, but I did not see it coming, the knife going in, and he really went for me, and in a sense tried to ruin my career. So we come to later life, and I just don't have a lot of trust for people, and in some ways it's actually worked out to be a blessing, because people would do little things where my spidey senses tingle, and I come to that crossroads. We all come to that crossroads with somebody. Should I continue to be friends with this person? Should I continue to have this person in my life? And usually, if our trust has been broken before, we've come from these backgrounds where our boundaries have always been broken, we usually steamroll ahead and we continue to be friends with these people. And in this case, a few cases last year and beginning of this year, people have broken my trust, and I have decided not to have anything to do with them. And I've felt a lot better for it, and nothing has happened in my life what's problematic. And people overstep the boundaries in very interesting ways, and people can defy you in very interesting ways. The other side to it is, of course, our lives are quite short, and if you're not a extrovert or you're not a celebrity, which most of us aren't, we don't meet that many new people. We don't meet that many good people. I would say once a year I meet 2 or 3 people what I would like to have as friends. And there's also a difference between, you have to understand, acquaintances and friends. You can have people what you're fond of who you'll never be friends with because you're just 2 different people. You have people you hang out with because you go to the same club or something, but they're never going to be your friends. You can have people you meet on traveling, what you share these great experiences together, but then you never see each other again. So there's a multitude of differences there. But you only do meet these people even if you're introverted, a few times a year. So when you do meet that person, I think you have to sometimes put your trust issues aside and try and do your best to water the friendship. But the way I've actually looked at it now is, in my older age, is we're all just sort of walking through this world in both metaphorical and very technical sense. People are just passing ships in the night, and I try to look at my first relationship, and I was also at fault for things going wrong. And even though she was the one who in the end betrayed my trust, and it did leave me with issues in later relationships, I now look at it as if that was an event. What happened, that was an experience. I learned from it. I don't share a single burden. We all have these experiences. We've all had it. So there's nothing particularly unique or special about the situation. And it shouldn't define the next stranger I meet. It shouldn't define my current relationship. And it's a good look at myself of why I let this happen to me. And I'm able to sort of look at it now as like a piece of history. And then with my parents, that's the only one. I think the parents are slightly harder because you're always trying to impress your parents, and my parents have continued to betray. So that's a whole different thing. I still have a lot of resentment in that area. Then when it's come to people in my career and stuff, I look at it slightly more understanding because we're all trying to get to a place. And movies and books, they teach us to be a bit ruthless to get to that place, and I've never been that. But at the same time, to get to where I've wanted to go, it has been a one-way ticket. There have been some people what I were in love with in a romantic sense, and I definitely in another life would have loved to have been in a relationship with them, but because they didn't want me to, or they didn't think I should go in the direction I wanted to go into, those relationships weren't able to become a thing. And that's the other side of this, that it can become, people aren't necessarily breaking your trust, but as you go through life trying to find what it is you want. For example, when I was younger, in the area I grew up in, not many people went on far away travels. It was all just Spain or France or Italy. And I decided when I was younger I wanted to travel far to the east, to Asia. And in doing so, I had some people wanting to come with me, but then it became quite clear that they liked the idea, but they weren't actually going to actively try and work towards that. And as I tried to work towards that, and then when I booked the tickets to go, those people became very bitter at me. And I realized that the thing I wanted to do in the place where I wanted to go, there's only me who can take me there, and these people aren't going to come with me. So if you do want to march to your own drum, and if you do want to be a leader, and if you do want to have your own voice and your own identity, you have to realize that people they're gonna instantly just not like what you're doing, because there's two ways looking at it. One way could be there's jealousy and bitterness at the fact that they can't get up off the couch, and you're the one who's get up off the couch and doing it. And then there's another thing of they just don't want to see you, whoever you are, attain the thing what they perhaps want to do themselves, because they don't have the guts or the whatever to do it, which is kind of the same as the first reason I listed. So to conclude, I try and make sure that in relationships, because so many boundaries have been broken for me, I sometimes break those boundaries. My parents were always shouting at each other, and I thought in a relationship shouting was perfectly fine. And about 3 years ago, I came to the realization, why am I just shouting like a lunatic at the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, when I don't even know I'm shouting? This anger is just trapped within me. I don't even know it's coming, and this person's also shouting back at me, but why do I have to then shout back? It's a bit like that macho nonsense of, why do I have to walk around acting like a tough guy? You know what I mean? Why do I have to have these broad shoulders and spit on the floor and talk a certain way? Why do I have to do that? And these are all things what are trapped within us. So that's what I try to do. I try to make sure I don't step over other people's boundaries, and it's very hard to do when you're, like I'm saying, when your own boundaries are broken. And on the other side, I try to make sure that when I do meet somebody cool, that I am able to look past events what have happened in my own life, and become a little bit more understanding of why these events are happening. Okay, this video's getting a little long, so I'm going to end it here. No, there's nothing wrong with a video being long, but it starts turning more into a podcast then. Okay guys, Enjoy your week, enjoy your lives, take care, ciao.